Okay, so now we're going to move on and we're going to figure out how to take this data that we have here on our desktop and kind of go through a somewhat of a theoretical exercise on how to actually put it onto a mobile device. Now, the Esri's solution for handhelds is called Arcpad. It's kind of like, I like to think of it as ArcGIS Lite almost. For walking around, and it's designed for small screens and data collection tasks that you would do while you're out in the field. And now, since, as I mentioned earlier, since we're a big group here, I don't have 25 GPS units or data collectors, and I wouldn't even know what we're going to collect outside. We basically are just going to work with the Arcpad software on the desktop here. It also runs on the desktop. So we'll go through exactly the same steps that you would if you were going to go outside to collect field data. The big difference is that we're not going to be using any kind of GPS device. We're just going to be kind of putting points on the map as you would see them if you were walking around in the field and just kind of estimating the position of things. It's not intermission. Actually, we got to go back to here. I need to close that. All right. What we're going to do is in Arcmap, let's see. I don't remember where we left this, but what we're going to want to do is to stop editing here. If you've left your editor open. And I'm also going to have you guys hit the full extent button here, upper left, or on the zooming toolbar here. So we zoom out to the whole thing. And now we're going to want to collect some data, theoretically, in our section that we've been working in. So what I'm going to have you do is grab the zoom in tool and then zoom in, draw a box around our section area that we want to work in. Now, one thing that we didn't do here is we didn't label this plant, so I want to label that plant really quick before we move forward here. So to do that, just to get a little bit more practice with it, start editing. And now, of course, our beautiful zoom job has been ruined by this palette here. So I'll zoom over, grab the Select Features tool here, and select our point. If you get the section, just hold down the Shift key and click anywhere in the section to get rid of that. And now, right-click on our Plant Centers layer, go to Selection, and then Annotate Selected Features. And it asks you what kind of annotation you want to create, and because this is just a center, not a mass planting, we will uncheck mass planting. So that plant center is checked. Hit OK, and now it creates a label, and we're zoomed out. These labels are at a scale suitable for making collection maps, so you can't see them. But if you wanted to zoom into that, you could zoom in, and you can see that it's created our label with our scientific name plus our accession number. Okay, so now go back to stop editing again here. Save our edits. Use the full extent button to zoom all the way out. Use our magnifying glass to draw a rectangle around the area we want to work with. And I'm zoomed a little far out. I want to zoom a little bit further in. You can also just use the magnifying glass and just click once on the map, and it'll do a fixed zoom in for you just a little bit at a time. Okay. So I want to take this data with me out in the field. And generally, when you're going to go out and do field data collection, it's a really good idea to do this and to just zoom into the area you want to work with, because otherwise you're going to be taking with you data that you don't need. So your air photo will be bigger and you'll have more data, which will slow down your mobile device. So those little devices don't necessarily have that much power. So you really just want to zoom into the area you're going to be working on. Okay, so now we need to get the data out of here, what we see on our screen, into Arcpad, which is the software we're going to use on our theoretical mobile device. So to do that, first thing we want to do is go to the Customize menu. And under Extensions here, we need to turn on the Arcpad Data Manager extension. And this will give us the capabilities for being able to check this data out. So under Extensions, it should be one down from the top, Arcpad Data Manager. And then we'll hit Close. And now what we need is the Arcpad Data Manager toolbar. So to get that, you can go to Customize, Toolbars, Arcpad Data Manager. Now we're going to be working with this one for a little bit today. If you want to keep this one floating around like this, you can do that, or you can click on the title area of it and drag it and dock it off somewhere. I like to keep all my editor tools down at the bottom, so I'll put it down here. Actually, is it okay for you guys to see stuff down there? Maybe I should put it at the top. It's probably better. Forgot about you over there. Okay, so now we want to basically what we call check out this data so that we can edit in Arcpad. So we'll hit this Get Data for Arcpad button. It's the first button next to Arcpad Data Manager. And this brings up a little wizard that walks us through the steps of checking this data out. So you could go through and read all this if you're intrigued, or I could just talk over it. We can hit the next button. And now basically this is asking us, what data do you want to take out in the field with you? So there's lots of different options for what we can do. And basically you can either take data with you that you want to edit, or you can take data with you that's going to be kind of a background set of information. So, and you can select different options based on that. So we're going to go out there and we're really just interested in collecting plant data on this trip. So we're going to, under Action here for Plant Center, we're going to just regular click on it, left click, and then we want to do, no, we don't have that option. It's not good. Interesting. Please hold. You have any clue why that option wouldn't come up, Angie? Oh, never mind. I think we'll just go that way. I had different options on mine the other day. Okay, so back to where we were. You guys still on this screen?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Okay, so under this for Plant Center, we're going to do export as background data as to AXF layer, and we want it to be editable because we're going to want to make some changes while we're out there. And then for mass planting, we're going to want to do the same thing. So export as background data, AXF, make editable. And now you can see there's some options here. One's for shapefile, one's for AXF. And the AXF is a little bit better because it preserves the full length of the file names and things like that. Shapefile is kind of a little older format, so it's not quite as good. So we go with the AXF. And now these other ones, we want to take this other data with us so we can actually at least see it when on our map. So for pavement segment, we probably want to see where our pavement is, so we'll do export as background data, but we're only going to make it read-only. We're not going to make any changes to it out there. Then planting area, we'll do the same thing. AXF, read-only. Section boundary, area of interest, not as interested in those, not going to take those. So we say do not export. Aerial photography, we want to do it as background TIFF. And you can take JPEG 2000 is another option. That's generally a smaller image, but when I tested it last night, the JPEG didn't work, so we're going to go TIFF. Hopefully it will work. Okay, so now we're going to hit Next. And then this screen asks you about pictures. So sometimes you're going to want to go out and take pictures of your plants while you're collecting data. A lot of the newer GPS kind of data collector devices have cameras built in, so you can take a picture just like you would on your cell phone and store information about whatever you're interested in. But to do that, you have to create a new field in your plant center or mass planning or whatever you're going to take pictures of feature class to store that. And we don't actually have that set up right now, but you could easily do that. And we're also not taking pictures today, so we're going to just skip this step. But this is where you would say what to do with those. On this screen here, it asks, what data do you want? And you can have it so that we'll only take the data in the current display extent. And that's the default option. That just means it's going to take what we see on our screen right now, and that's what we want. But you could also have it so that it will take all the data, or there's a few different options. And then it wants us to specify a name for the folder. And you can name this whatever you want, but I'm going to go with CPH Workshop. And then it asks us, where do we actually want to store this? So it's a good idea to usually keep all of the GIS data for your project in one close place. So we'll save it on that T drive. So if you hit the folder icon, expand computer, and then on this T drive thaw space, just select our GIS for Public Gardens Workshop data and hit OK. And then it has this thing down here for creating a map file that goes with it and a name for it. And it names it the same as we saved our document, and that's just fine. So now we'll hit Next. And then it has some options for deploying it. If you had a mobile device already hooked up to your computer, or you had one and you plugged it into your computer, you can have it automatically copy the data to that by doing this ready to deploy CAB file. But we're just going to leave the default option of create ArcPad data on this computer now. You hit finish. Cross your fingers that everything works. Yay, and then it brings up a screen telling you how things went. So basically it says here that it's got the names and the folders and the projection of the data. It told us that we exported 5 layers, and then it has really the succeeded is what you're looking for here, is that it tried to get all these out, and it did, and then these rest of these ones it didn't try. So everything worked according to plan. We can hit the OK button. And now what? Now we need to actually go and open that folder and look at our data in ArcPad. So let's see, we can close Arcmap out, save changes to our map, yes. And then you probably have ArcPad 10 on your desktop. Does everyone have that there? Is that yes or no?
Yes.
Yes, okay. So double click on ArcPad 10. And basically what we're seeing here is the same interface that you would see on your handheld device if you were out in the field. So now it asks you what do you want to do. We can choose a map to open. And then theoretically, if you're out in the field, it would probably find the map that we just created automatically. But since this is saved on a T drive, which is a network drive here, we're going to hit this little open folder icon here at the bottom. And we're going to navigate to our T drive, to our GIS or Public Gardens Workshop, and there's my CPH Workshop folder. And inside of it, there should be an Error KC section document. Hit open. Yay, and the photo came in. I've had a lot of problems lately with the photo not showing up, so this is good news. Okay, so you can see now it's pretty much what we saw in the office there. The one thing that doesn't come out in the field with you is the annotation, so it doesn't take that stuff out with you. But if you want to find out what your plants are, you can use some of the tools that are inside of Arcmap to be able to, or ArcPad, excuse me, to be able to read those. So let's see here. The first thing we're going to want to do is I guess, create some new data. So say, theoretically, we're out in the field, and we wanted to map some plants. What plants should we map, Mia? Which ones do you know?
How about the Arcmap and Drafting one?
This one here?
Big, beautiful Turkish minnow.
This guy here? All right, so let's zoom into this guy here. And say we're walking around in the field, and if we have a GPS unit, there generally you can go through the Arcmap and or ArcPad instructions and learn how to connect your GPS unit to ArcPad so that you can actually collect GPS points. But since we don't have any of that equipment today, we're just going to be dropping some points on the map. So to be able to add some points in, we need to use the drawing tools here. So click on the drawing tools. This is the third option from the left in the upper corner here. And then it brings up a different set of tools here. And then, just like we do in Arcmap, we'll hit the editing toolbar here, or the editing button, and it basically will start editing and ask us which feature we want to edit. So first thing we're going to want to do is a plant center. So we click on plant center. And then we need to select what type of geometry we're going to create. So for in this particular case, we want to do a point. So from the third menu from the left, select point, and which is already default selected. And then, just the same way that we did in Arcmap, you can actually just click on what you think is the center of this plant, and it brings up the attributes. It's a really similar editing workflow to what we're used to doing in Arcmap already. So in this particular case, we don't know what the plant center ID is on this. You can choose to leave this blank when you're out in the field so that you don't have to fill it in if you don't want to. And now what we could have done in Arcmap before we came out is we could have turned off a lot of these fields so that we didn't see them out here. So whatever fields you have on in Arcmap are going to be the fields that show up in this data form when we're out in the field. But I happen to know that we've created 2 plant centers already, so this one's 3, so I'm going to fill it in. The plant center type, we have to select from a list. We know that this is going to be a tree. And the accession number field, you can choose to make, you can see that it has a drop down here. You can choose to make some predefined lists the same way that we added values to those lists of the section name and the username before. You can make a new domain for accession number and assign it to this field so that when you go out in the field, it'll have a drop-down list of all your possible accession numbers. And you could do that for any of the taxonomy fields, but we don't have that today, so we're just going to type in what we know as the accession number. Mia is? Oh, I thought you knew them all. I'm going to type in A570001. And I'm sure your accession number is in a completely different format. And remember, a good rule of thumb is to set the qualifier the same as the plant center ID. And now I'm going to, in the sake of saving time while I'm out in the field, I'm not going to fill in any of the information about the genus, the species, or any of that stuff. I'm just going to skip to the second page here at the top and skip all the taxonomy and go straight to scientific name. And what's our scientific name? How do you spell that? CEA. All right. We're going to go with that. It ends in E? AE? AE. All right. Anybody actually know? No? You got it? H-N-E. That sounds better. Okay, and if we're out in the field, we would probably have a measuring tape with us so we can actually measure the canopy of this particular plant. But since we don't, I think there's some measuring tools that we can use in here. But again, it's not going to let us, once this window's open, it's not going to let us fill it in. So we're going to leave that blank for the time being, and we'll come back to it. We can go to page 3. If you can't see page 3, you can hit the arrow in the upper right to be able to get to page 3. And then we've got our drop downs for section name and our collection name. Survey date, there's a little checkbox you can just check for today's date. Username and the drop down list. Arrow in the upper right to get to page 4. As you can see, it's all the same stuff that we were entering in the office. And now we have no clue what the planting area ID and all that stuff is. So when you're out in the field, just skip all this stuff. And a good step is that when you get back into the office to go and verify all the data you collected in the field. A lot of times when you're working on the small screen, you tend to make errors. So it's always a good idea to check your work when you get back into the office. So we'll do that. There's a few other tabs on here. There's our family that we created, so we could put that in there now. You could also make a drop-down list as a domain if you want. And now this is a little thing that I didn't show you guys earlier, but we have a table of common names that is linked to plant centers. So because many plants have multiple common names, we've created an extra table to store those. And if we wanted to basically put in one of the common names, does anyone know a common name for this plant? Turkish madrone. We can add that in. So if we go to this plant common name tab, hit the plus icon, it brings up some information, some fields here that we can put common names in. So we have storage capacity for up to 5 common names. So in the primary common name, we'll just put in Turkish madrone. And then we hit the blue arrow here to go back. You can see that it's stored that in there for us. And then there's another tab here if you want to take a picture. You could hit this if you had the capacity on your mobile device. You could hit the camera icon and it will activate the camera, and you can take a picture. It'll add into whatever field you selected. And then there's a symbology and geography tab if you want to change the way things look on the map and find out more information about it. But we're done, so we're just going to hit OK. And now it creates that point on the map. And now I want to go and actually measure. Let's see if we actually have a tool in here. I believe that we do. Maybe we don't actually have that. You know if there's a measure tool in this? I feel like there is. Somewhere there's a measure tool. Well, I thought there was. Can't imagine that there's not. Oh, maybe here. Oh. Aha, there it is, a measure tool. Okay, so we can measure, and then we can click in the center of this tree and measure out to where we think is the edge of it. It is under the second menu. It looks like a globe at the top there. Here, I'll point up there. This one. And then it brings up this, and then it's the down arrow under the fourth thing from the left. I know, it's totally clear. Okay, so I've clicked my measure tool, and I've got it out to the edge of my plant. I'll double click, and it should somewhere report. Oh, it's reporting it in meters. That's nice. So we're going to want to change that for meters. So I'm going to cancel out of this. I don't know how to cancel out of this, actually. It just keeps going. Oh, stop. Make it go away. Oh, that didn't work either. Now we're just totally falling apart here. If anybody can figure out how to stop the measure tool, please let me know.
Under the drop down before the measure tool, I guess turn it on. Identify.
Just try another tool. Yeah, there you go. That's what you have to do, I guess. Okay, so what we want to do actually is we're going to want to change our units so that we can measure in feet. Actually, we want to measure in inches. So if you go to the File menu here, this is the folder at the top, or the main tools, I guess it's called. Scroll over to the Options, and then under Options, hit the Options again, and then right here on Display Units, you want to change those to US units. And now it'll measure in something that we can actually deal with. Another good thing to know is the extensions, and that's not on this pane of options, so just hit OK on this, but the advanced options here, a lot of times you need to turn on and off different extensions. So say the instance that you loaded this up and your aerial photo didn't show up, there's actually an extension here that allows for different file formats of fixed pictures to be displayed. Right now, I think the default is that they're all on, but since our image was a TIFF image, if this was off, our photo would not show up. So the extensions are always a good thing to go and check. Now, the one disadvantage to having all the extensions on is that it takes a long time for the program to load up. So if you're using a little mobile device, it could be a little slow. So that's a good thing to know. And it said that a restart of Arcpad may be required to make this measurement tool work, but we're just going to give it a shot here. So I think it was under Browse Tools, under fourth thing here. Measure. Oh, there it is. It's back. I have no clue how to make this stop. Let's try a different one. See what the radial measure tool does. Let's try this one and see what this does. So this one, it's telling me that this madrone is about 19 feet. So I'm going to use that as a number. Anybody want to calculate what 19 times 12 is? 228. Okay, so now we want to enter 228 inches back in our attributes for this particular plant. And now really this is not the appropriate method. You'd really want to go out there and measure this plant, but if you are just eyeballing it, this is how you do it. Okay, so I grabbed basically on the third menu here, which is the edit tools, there's the pointer icon. Grab that pointer icon, then you can double click on the center point of your plant. And I believe it was on page 2. Yeah, page 2. Go down to plant size. And what was the number again? 228. So we enter 228. And now if you really wanted to put it in feet, you could put it in feet and then change it when you go back in the office and do that calculation there. Okay, so now we've got our plant size, so we'll hit OK, and we're all done. Now if we wanted to do a mass planting, the process is fairly similar. I'm going to go to the Browse tools, and I'm going to zoom out, or you can use the zoom out tools over here in the left, theoretically. There we go. And now let's go do a mass planting somewhere. I'm pretty sure that there is some more manzanita over here. Oh yeah, I can really make that out well on this map. But let's theoretically say that there was. This is not functioning properly. There we go. Okay. So let's say that there's a clump of manzanita in here that we want to map. So to do that, we're going to go back to our drawing tools. On our start-stop editing, we're going to turn off Plant Center by clicking on it, and then turn on mass planting. And now this time, because we're using, we want to draw a polygon, we have to change our geometry type to polygon. And then we can go ahead and draw this in on the map. So let's say that it's filling up this whole area here. And we can kind of see it here. Okay. And as you double click to finish it off, it'll bring up the attributes for it. And we can put in our mass planting ID if we know it. I know this is our second mass planting, so I'll put in 2. But if you didn't, you can leave that blank until you get back into the office. The type, again, this is just going to have one species in it. Keep the planting size as small. Enter section name. Enter collection name. Survey date. Username. Update date. And then update username and any comments you might want to put. And then once you've done that, you can click OK, and it finishes our polygon. And now we just have to put a center point in this polygon to go with it. So to do that, we need to change back to our plant centers layer. So hit Start Stop Editing, unselect Mass Planting, click on it once, click on Plant Center, change our geometry type to point, and put a center point in the middle of the polygon, and it brings up our information, our attribute information again. So this time we'll just do plant center ID as 4, or again you could leave it blank. The type, this one's going to be a shrub. Mia's going to make up an accession number for us. Alright. We're going to go with A50 2004 just for laughs. And then we're going to leave most of the taxonomy blank that we can fill in later. We'll skip to page 2. Enter our scientific name, and what is this plant going to be? I think you might be right. And because this is a mass planting, we put in our plant size as 0. Enter our section name and our collection name, or you could leave this stuff blank again until you got back in the office, but it's pretty easy to enter. And this is part of a mass planting, so we're going to put in 2, I think. It was number 2. And we don't know what the rest of these are, so we'll leave them blank. Alright, so we hit OK to finish that, and then we're done. And now let's say our theoretical field data collection trip is over, and we're ready to take this data and go back into the office. To do that, we can just exit Arcpad, and Arcpad automatically saves any of your edits to your data, so you don't have to worry about that. If it asks you to save, it's just going to save the way that the map looks at the current time. So it's basically just where you're zoomed into. So now we want to check those edits that we made out in the field back into ArcGIS. So we'll open up Arcmap. with that photo. No, so that's aerial photos are going to be a limiting factor. 6-inch aerial photos, which is what we're working with, are pretty common. There are some better ones out there, but they're a little bit harder to come by. Okay, so when Arcmap opens back up on this Get It Starting window, we can just open up our AKC section map and hit open. And now we see the same view that we left it with. So now what we want to do is check that data back in. So in the ArcPad Data Manager toolbar, we'll select Get Data from ArcPad. And then it asks what you want to check in. Since there's nothing listed here, we'll hit this plus icon here. And basically, we need to navigate now to the location where we check the data out to. So that's on our T drive. GS Republic Gardens Workshop. CPH Workshop, and then there's background layers. And we select open on that. Uh-oh. It's already been checked in, great. We got ArcPad working at its finest here, I think. Yeah, I don't think it's going to work here, folks. Nope, didn't work. Sometimes things don't work correctly. Let me just open that back up in ArcPad to make sure that our data was there. And if it doesn't work, we're just going to have to skip that step and trust me on that, I guess. So you can see that it did, in fact, save the work that we did when we were out there, but for some reason it's not letting us bring that information back in. And who knows why. I don't know why. Well, let me give it one more shot here, and if it doesn't work, we'll just have to move on. Let me try to start editing first and see if that helps our cause. And we're going to hit this. So the button we want to check here is the Get Data from ArcPad. Add in our background layers. Nope, still not working. Who knows? Any ideas, Angie? Me neither. So, these things happen. We've had some days, Mia, when we've gone out and collected data and lost quite a bit of it for one problem or another. Now, there are some ways to extract the data. If this little wizard thing is not working for us, there are some ways to actually load the data back in, but it's a little bit more than we have a chance to go over in this workshop. So I think we're going to have to skip along with that. But that's the basic workflow, and that's how it is supposed to work. And did work yesterday when I did it. But today it's not working, so who knows. So anyway, let's skip that for now, and we'll go on and we'll look at a few steps to make a map.